of the central bank in Curaçao's economy. And later, we shine the spotlight on one of the oldest banks on the island, the Medulla and Coryell's Bank. Carib Nation is up next.
Thanks for all the adventures we'll have. Thanks for all the ropes we'll jump, the books we'll read, and things we'll make. Thanks for all the notes we'll play, flowers we'll pick, baths we'll take, secrets we'll share, races we'll run, and smiles we'll give. Thanks for all the joy we'll bring, the laughs we'll share, and dreams we'll dream. Thanks.
To all those who give birth to, homes to, or just give thought to people adopted as infants.
Thanks.
Thanks for considering adoption.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside are
Very excited about today's program.
Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
One television organization brings America close to the people, stories, and events that affects Caribbean life. Get close, get answers, get Carib Nation.
Hello and welcome to Carib Nation. I am Paul Nehru, Tennessee. Today we turn our attention to the business of banking on the island of Curacao. We begin with a visit to the Central Bank of Curacao. The bank's most important objectives are to maintain the external stability of the Netherlands, Antilles and Gilda, and to promote efficient functioning of the financial system in the Netherlands Antilles. I sat down with the President of the Central Bank of Curacao, Mr. Emsley Trump, to discuss the working of this giant financial institution. What exactly is the role of the Central Bank in the Dutch Antilles and particularly in Curacao?
Basically, the central bank, the main objective of the central bank is to promote the stability of Netherlands Antilles Gilda. As such, we are the monetary authority. We conduct the monetary policy. We are the main economic advisor of the central government. And aside from our main responsibility as monetary authority, we are also entrusted with the supervision of the financial sector. We're responsible for the supervision of the banking sector, the pension sector, and the insurance sector. In addition to that, we also supervise the mutual funds, and we are also the regulator of the payment system. And finally, we are the banker of the central bank. So the central bank basically is a public entity entrusted with monetary policy and advising the government in matters of economic policies.
And this brings us to the question that now Curacao and the other islands are seeking status aparte in 2010. They would be dismantled as the Dutch Antilles, and there is talk about the dollarization of the currency here in Curacao. What is your view on that?
Well, as you know, as a consequence of dismantling of Netherlands Antilles, at least in its current configuration, In a way, the Netherlands Antilles Guilder as such will cease to exist. So as a consequence, we have to choose then whether to start with an own currency or whether we will then adopt another currency. In the case of Aruba, for instance, they started with their own currency, the Aruban florin. In the case of the Netherlands, Curacao, we have opted to continue with one central bank for both Curacao and St. Martin. So as a consequence, one has to take the decision whether to, again, adopt a currency other than one owns, being the dollar, or the own currency. In our particular case, having one central bank with one currency for two autonomous countries, as you know, you will have the issue of coordination of fiscal policy. You've seen the case, for instance, in Europe, where you have the euro, and with separate, different countries, each one being independent and conducting their own fiscal policy. The issue of coordination is very critical. You have the so-called Maastricht criteria, and you know that in a period of crisis, that can give rise to various tension. In the case of the two new countries being Curacao and St. Martin, if you do not have that coordinating mechanism very well established, then it can give rise then to problem for the stability of the currency. I think that by adopting the dollar as a currency will serve us well, because it will remove the balance of payment constraint. It removed then the possibility of having the currency crisis, especially in times like this. By adopting the dollar, you integrate your financial sector more into the world financial sector, especially in the period of the globalizing an economy.
In this turbulent financial global reality, how hard hit Curacao in particular and the Dutch Antilles have? What has been their experience?
Well, the crisis, as you know, we have to make a distinction between the financial crisis, the crisis that started basically last year, and the ensuing crisis of the real sector, the so-called recession, depression. As far as the financial crisis is concerned, we came out unscratched. None of our financial institutions, at least the banking sector, was affected by the crisis. The pension funds did suffer some loss, some book losses, but they almost recuperated that loss. So we have not seen any impact of the financial crisis on our financial institution. Now we're feeling some of the impact of that global recession in our economy, especially in the tourist sector. We've seen now that at least the growth in the tourism sector that we have been recording the last few years, we have seen a mitigation in that growth rate. But contrary to other countries in the Caribbean, we have seen that we were not very hard hit. And the main reason being is that the composition of our tourism is much more diversified, whereas the Caribbean island, they depend heavily on the U.S. tourism. Ours is more diversified, being
Europe and Latin America and so forth.
And the United States. So as a consequence, we were only affected by the American part, and the European part was less affected than the United States part.
In this time of global financial crisis and all the complex issues that you have explained, increasingly citizens are want to know more about finance. Have you been engaged in any or implementing any programs for financial literacy here in Curacao and the Dutch Antilles?
Yes, actually we consider that as a very, very important part of our function as central bank. We have done that in various ways. One of them being much more transparent, try to increase the transparency of central banking, because for one reason or another, central bank always being viewed as a black box, and we wanted to break that situation. The very construction of this building, the way that we constructed this building, is part of that strategy by increasing the accessibility of this building to the rest of the community. We also have a museum recording the history of central banking, where we invite especially school children on a regular basis to come into the central bank, view the part of the history, not only about the coin history, but also the economic development of Netherlands Antilles, and also try to get other groups of the society to the bank. The central bank does not only invite various groups to the central bank, but we also go out and visit various groups, try to explain the crisis, try to educate them, and also especially the children, the youth.
That's very important. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time trying to educate them, and not only for them to understand the policy, but they are the future president of the central bank, they are the future lawyer, accountant, and economist that we need to work at the central bank. So we'll try to invite them, let them see what kind of job they can have by choosing the right curriculum.
The prudential supervision by the Central Bank of Curacao of banking and credit institutions is aimed at controlling the soundness of the financial system in the Netherlands Antilles and at safeguarding the deposits of creditors at commercial banks. When we come back, we head to one of these commercial banks, the Medulla and Coryell's bank, to get their story. Carib Nation will be right back after the short break.
Thanks for all the adventures we'll have. Thanks for all the ropes we'll jump, the books we'll read, and things we'll make. Thanks for all the notes we'll play, flowers we'll pick, baths we'll take, secrets we'll share, races we'll run, and smiles we'll give. Thanks for all the joy we'll bring, the laughs we'll share, and dreams we'll dream. Thanks.
To all those who give birth to, homes to, or just give thought to people adopted as infants.
Thanks.
Thanks for considering adoption.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside are very excited about today's program.
Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
One television organization brings America close to the people, stories, and events that affects Caribbean life. Get close, get answers, get Carib Nation.
Medulla's Bank was the first commercial bank to establish in the Netherlands Antilles, opening its doors on January 2, 1917 in the capital city of Curacao, Willemstad. In 1932, Medulla's Bank merged with Coryell's Bank, and Medulla and Coryell's Bank was born. Now, with 31 branches in Curacao, Aruba, Bonaire, St. Martin, and St. Eustatius, it is the largest commercial bank in the Dutch Caribbean. Lionel Capriles II is the president and CEO of Medulla and Coryell's Bank. People are very, very interested in the success story of your family in particular and this bank in general. You've been called the oldest bank in the Dutch Antilles. Can you tell us a bit about the history of this bank?
Of course, and gladly, and thank you for being in Curacao today.
The history of this bank is quite interesting and is very much interrelated with the growth and the development of the island, specifically of Curacao, even though we operate on the other Dutch islands as well. When the oil refinery was established in the early 1900s, my great-grandfather decided that it would be a good moment to start a Casa de Cambio, a changing office that grew into a bank, and basically that's where the start of the bank comes from.
Because you have persisted for quite some time, and you're an indigenous, real Caribbean, creative, entrepreneurial enterprise, which is very good for the Caribbean. What has been the secret of your success?
I think part of the secret has been, let me go back, if you don't mind, about the indigenous part. Indeed, we are an indigenous part of this community. In fact, my family has been on this island for around 12 generations, and Curacao and the Dutch islands specifically have always been, you know, religiously tolerant, and just like Holland has been historically, and Holland being our mother country, these islands have been very welcoming and very open to foreigners and to people with different creeds and races, etc., establishing themselves here. So my family came in the 1700s. And hasn't left since. And in fact, I think if we go back to the bank now, we've always, you know, felt, you know, very closely to these islands, Curacao specifically, but also the islands of Aruba, Bonaire, St. Martin, Statia, and Saba. And so we do business really with our heart. We try, I mean, of course, it's nice at the end of the day to make a profit, but we try to make sure that we're serving and that we're giving the best, you know, products and services that are available out there, and be an integral part in our clients and the financial development and financial planning of our clients.
You did pinpoint that the rise or the emergence of the bank was linked to the industry of the oil industry here. And so there are workers in the community, and there's a larger community. How has your bank contributed to the socio-economic development, to Curacao in particular, but the Netherlands and Antilles in general?
Well, that's a good question, because we've always felt a little bit, also because of the philosophy of the bank and what I said earlier about, you know, being part of this community, that if the community does well, our bank will do well, our community will do well, and the population at large will be better for it. So we've always been a very civic and social responsible corporate citizen. We have a special program where we encourage our staff to participate in a tremendous variety of social work in our community, from, you know, reading to children, to cooking for elderly, to helping people with AIDS. I mean, you name it. Our people are involved. I mean, a lot of it after hours of work, but some of it during hours of work. And also we put our money where our mouth is, with substantial donations and substantial contributions to important causes, but also important developments that we see.
So you sort of practice corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, we feel that's an integral part of our being.
Now that there's a global financial crisis, how has your bank been navigating this crisis?
You know, we've been very fortunate, and I'd like to think that you know, it was a factor that we knew what we were doing. Let me explain what I mean with that. We've always stuck to our bread and butter business. We never, you know, we are at the end of the day a small village bank. I mean, we consider, you know, these are small islands. We consider ourselves to be part of these islands. But more importantly, we've stuck to the customers that we know and that we understand. So, and all these, excuse me, all these fancy products and fancy derivative stuff and mortgage stuff came along. Of course, they offered them to us, but we didn't understand it. We didn't pretend that, you know, to understand it, and we stayed away from it. We stuck to our bread and butter. We stuck to our clientele that operates, that we can see them in the eyes, that we can shake their hands when there is a deal to be made, and we just kept to the basics. And I think that's been a blessing in disguise. I mean, some people say, okay, it might not be as riveting or as exciting as you know, downtown Wall Street or London or what have you, but our business is a different kind of business.
So you sort of didn't buy into casino capitalism?
No, we try to stay away from that.
To all those who give birth to, homes to, or just give thought to people adopted as infants, thanks for considering adoption.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside are very excited about today's program.
Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
One television organization brings America close to the people, stories, and events that affects Caribbean life. Get close, get answers, get Carib Nation.
What has been your relationship with your bank with other areas of the Caribbean, like say the French, the Dutch, and the English-speaking? You know,
Yeah.
I know the Dutch is covered, but the Spanish, English, and French-speaking.
You see, we have an interesting, our bank, our largest shareholder happens to be the Bank of Nova Scotia out of Canada. Bank of Nova Scotia has historically been a very active player in the Caribbean. So we've had, we have relationships. They're a 49% shareholder in this bank, and they basically are represented on all the islands in the Caribbean, including Guyana, including Ecuador, including several of the Central and Latin America countries. So in fact, they were established in Jamaica or in Kingston. I think even before they came into Toronto. It's a bank out of Halifax, Canada.
That's a very popular bank in the English-speaking Caribbean.
Exactly. So our relationship with the Caribbean is via the Scotia door.
Through Canada.
Through Canada and through their regional efforts here. I mean, and like I said, they're represented in Santo Domingo, in Puerto Rico. So they're in the Spanish and the English Caribbean.
Now with status aparte, the sense one gets in North America and in the Caribbean and Latin America is it seems like the Dutch are loosening their ties with the Netherlands, Antilles, Curacao, and these countries. Do you see a shift towards the United States as a major replacement of Holland?
No, actually, it's a tricky question in the sense that like I said before, the three small islands have become part of Holland. So if there is a shift, it's towards more towards.
Those three
are Bonaire, Saint Eustatia or Statia, and Saba. So the S islands, we call them the best islands. So Bonaire, Eustatius, and Saba.
And they have a population of how much?
Bonaire has about, I would say, 18,000. Saba has about 1,500, and Statia has about, they're small.
2,000.
Yeah, a little more, maybe.
A little bit
3,000.
Yeah.
So they're relatively small, but they have chosen, you know, through referenda and through, you know, public.
The democratic process.
Exactly. They've chosen to become part of the Dutch.
The Dutch kingdom.
Yeah, the part of the Dutch kingdom. And that leaves St. Martin and Curacao, who also will maintain the same type of relationship that Aruba chose in '87. So I would not say, you know, at the last referendum, for instance, we had a choice, and independence was one of the choices, and I think they got 2% of the vote.
That was rejected.
Yeah, so I don't think independence, or we didn't have an option, you know, association with the U.S., but I think if you ask the great majority of people would rather have this relationship, continue with the relationship with Holland. There's a lot of families, a lot of children who went to school there, and there's a lot of
connectivity,
by all means,
interconnectivity.
there is a lot of connectivity.
Culturally and otherwise.
Exactly.
Culturally
So, I mean, it's been a long time, so it makes sense.
So you continue to see Curacao as an island state that will have more autonomy, continue with its political stability, and its financial stability.
Yes, by all means.
By all means.
Yes.
So finally, you see your banking enterprise expanding into Latin America, the Caribbean.
You know, I wouldn't say that. Like I said before, because of the relationship with Bank of Nova Scotia, we are limited. You know, we're not going to compete with them. They are very active on many of the islands that would be islands or countries that we would have.
But you sort of have a partnership with them.
Exactly. So I see, you know, via the partnership with Bank of Nova Scotia that we will be able to expand. But on the other hand, you know, we were very conscious that a bank of our size and a bank of you know, knowing the stuff we know, and you know, we should not try to shoot higher than a bank our size, and given the expertise we have, then is necessary. So we're very conscious that we need to grow, and we want to also help these islands to grow. But at the end of the day, it has to be in a planned and in a careful fashion.
With more than 1,300 staff, Medulla and Coryell's bank is one of the largest private sector employers in the Netherlands Antilles, and the largest in Curacao. The bank's total asset is in excess of 4 billion guilders. For more information on these companies featured on today's Carib Nation, please visit our website, caribnationtv.com. Until next time, I am Paul Nehru, Tennessee, for Carib Nation.